What a fantastic episode. Not that episode 1 wasn't good, but this one was just pure great. Episode 2, The Mines of Mandalore. We finally get to them, we finally visit them, and we finally understand what lies beneath. Cutting to the chase, the episode starts with a Rodian conversing with Peli Motto. He has a speeder that needs to be fixed quickly, and because it's the Bunta Eve race, she is bargaining to charge him even more, even gets money for the parts up front, with the Rodian giving the credits and moving along. We now understand that, in fact, Peli has made a deal with Jawas to roam around, strip any speeder that was left unattended for parts, and then when they come back, she already has the parts for fixing, basically scamming the native Tatooines or anybody who visits. Pretty scammy if you ask me, but I love this part of Star Wars where it seems like with Disney it has kind of dissipated. Everybody has to be either evil or good. This is the part where Star Wars shines the most. If you remember back in 77, a lot of characters were just shady. That was the nature of the galaxy, especially on a planet like Tatooine. The Bunta Eve, of course, is a direct reference to the Phantom Menace. We all remember that, and it was a great nod. But more great nods came in the form of R5. Din Djarin comes to the spaceport to converse with Peli Motto, was glad to see Grogu again, even mentions that he has started talking his first words, albeit gibberish, but when he talks with the Jawas and Peli Motto about a memory circuit for the IG unit, they tell him that is outright impossible. This is when Peli Motto is at her best. She turns the tables around and offers R5-D4 for selling. This is the moment where I was really fascinated with R5 because now we have even more lore about R5 and the fact that why he has a bad motivator, as Luke said, and why he is falling apart. He is essentially the failed R2-D2. That was very much known back in the day in 77, but now it is confirmed that even R5-D4 served the rebellion against the Empire. This is a great tidbit that we learned from this episode, and I'm glad to see that R5 was not just a scapegoat droid back in the day in 77 when R2 needed to be purchased and R5 had a faulty motivator. He was falling apart. Even in this episode, he was falling apart, but now we get a clearer and bigger idea of why he has basically, since 1 BBY, he is full-on in retirement mode. And I have to say, more disappointment from episode 1 in this case, because essentially the whole IG-11 thing is falling by the wayside. It was a complete waste of time because Din Djarin even mentions that he does not have space for the R5 unit in his N1. Leads me to the question, how in the hell would he have had place for IG, who is much bigger in that ship? But whatever the case, since he can't obtain the memory circuit to fix IG-11, he has to take R5, who immediately starts shaking with fear and reluctantly gets sold to Din Djarin to go for Mandalore and explore its environment if it is toxic or breathable or not. Foreshadowing what was about to happen, this episode was basically a lot of foreshadowing. Din Djarin talks to Grogu about the star systems, where they're going, that they're going to Mandalore, shows Grogu on the star map, shows him where he grew up on Concordia, and even shows him the planet of Bo-Katan where they went to visit. The barrier of entry to Mandalore was pretty much artistic to the point. It is rough, gritty, cloudy, with thunderstorms around, but once you enter, it is beautiful. It was bombed to such an extent that now glass rocks have been formed. If you remember, this is a direct reference to Tatooine, because this is what happened to Tatooine, the history of Tatooine. I'm not going to go further into it because it deserves its own video, but Tatooine back in the Rakatan days was bombed just like Mandalore. It became glassified, and then once the centuries and the millennia went on, that glass formed into sand, and that's why now it is a desert planet. This is what I expect would happen millennia later to Mandalore as well. R5's signal gets lost. Din Djarin has to go out and find him. Just then he gets attacked by Alamites. We saw them in the trailer, at least we saw one, Grogu defeating him with the Force, course. But Elamites, it seems like they lived even back when Mandalore was fine and dandy. They lived on the subsurface. Now they have overtaken most of the planet. Luckily, Din defeats all of them, but we still see that he has trouble with the Darksaber, with the weight of it. It was also cool to see that the Mandalorians, at least Din Djarin, was able to pressurize his helmet so that it could function like an astronaut, whether the atmosphere is breathable or not. I assume its time frame is limited because essentially, again, this makes the whole atmosphere of Mandalore a moot point. He could get out and find R5 on his own. But as they explore the caverns of Mandalore beneath, this is when he gets trapped. A huge mecha droid with the eye in the middle. I immediately suspected something when I saw this eye, but I wanted to wait and confirm. Now, this creature does not see Grogu at the time. When Grogu sneaks into his lair and sees his true form, no doubt in my mind that this was a complete direct reference to General Grievous. He moves like General Grievous, and if you listen closely, there are sound effects of Grievous talking that were digitalized to sound like a droid. At one point when he approaches Din Djarin, if you listen very closely, he even says Dooku. And I think that audio was taken directly from Grievous when he says, "I was trained in your Jedi arts by Count Dooku." This is the exact sound. I'm reluctant to swear on here, but if you go listen to it again, I'm sure you will figure it out. Now, Grogu tries to get him out, but he can't. Din instructs him to quickly go and get Bo-Katan. We still see Bo-Katan depressed on her castle. She hasn't peeped, but now once she sees what the situation is, she springs into action. They go to Mandalore. We see the gut punch that she feels when she sees her planet destroyed like this. She even talks to Grogu about once upon a time and all that. Elamites attack her again, but we see that Bo-Katan is, I think, a much more skilled fighter than Din Djarin at this point. And I gotta say that if they go head-to-head for the Darksaber, right now it's kind of tough to pick a winner, but I think Bo-Katan just inches closer to a W right now. Don't get me wrong, right now things might change. This unknown creature is harnessing the blood of Din Djarin in his lair. This is more evidence to me that this might have been General Grievous. We might never know now because they didn't talk about it. Even Bo-Katan didn't talk about him. So we might never know if this was General Grievous that somehow survived. This is, of course, Star Wars. Don't forget. The eye moving in an ominous, creepy kind of way. His movement, his attacks, his sounds, everything, literally everything was General Grievous. But in the end, Bo-Katan just is quite the fighter. And you clearly can see that she can go head-to-head with a Jedi Knight at least, maybe not a Jedi Master, once she picks up the Darksaber. She even has the idea of a hand ray shield, essentially an armor, wielding the Darksaber with the right hand and shielding herself with the other. And it shows how she clearly and great she can control the Darksaber. Din needs two hands to even lift it up. It seems so heavy for him, but it seemed effortless for Bo-Katan. She was wielding it with one arm and with ease. She defeated the creature. Its head separated, went into the mecha droid. She defeated the mecha droid as well with ease. And if you want more evidence that this was completely inspired by General Grievous, Bo-Katan sliced him in the heart with the Darksaber, same as General Grievous died by Obi-Wan with Blaster. So I think this was a complete rip-off, in the good sense of course, of General Grievous, and I would have loved more explanation on this. Sadly, we did not get one. We only got a mention from Bo-Katan that she said, "I wonder what else survived down here." Maybe a hint that General Grievous survived and became this creature that is now sucking the life form of anyone who visits so that he could come back to his form once again. But maybe we will never know, at least Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, if they confirm it somehow. Din wakes up. Bo-Katan mocks him for his beliefs still in the Children of the Watch because Mando is determined to the living waters of Mandalore, and they do. With the help of Bo-Katan, they arrive there. It is a great moment where Din is going through his ritual. The plaque also was very emotional and mentions the mythosaur and the first Mandalore that tamed it. Who would have thought, and this is when the foreshadowing comes of course, who would have thought that the mythosaur that was mentioned in that plaque is still alive underneath this lake? This is what grabs Mando before he could finish his ritual, and once Bo-Katan goes down there to retrieve his body, we see the eye and the head of the mythosaur and the giant that it is. Even Bo-Katan, when she comes up, she is baffled by the idea that this mythosaur still survives. Just a couple of minutes ago, she was mocking Din Djarin for trying to go to the living waters. They are essentially nothing. They mean nothing to Bo-Katan. Again, a couple of minutes ago, but now they are really important. And this adds one more mythical lore to the Mandalorian mythos. That it's not just the Darksaber now it's the mythosaur as well. Who will have the lightsaber in one hand and guiding the mythosaur, taming him on the other? This adds to the mystery of the Mandalorian and what lies ahead in the future. What a great, beautiful episode, and I can't wait for what lies ahead. Now I understand why Jon Favreau said that there is a lot more to be seen from the Mandalorian series. I hope that it goes on forever. Thank you guys so much for watching this, and leave your thoughts down below in the comments. Now you have an awesome day, Star Wars fans. I'll see you in the next video, and may the Force be with you. Until then.